Hello, and welcome to the wonderful world of Facebook Live with me, Martin. Or is it? Is it really Martin? Is it really me? Is there such a thing? Is this a story that I'm telling you, or am I actually reflecting you to you? Are we all just a reflection of consciousness focused into a physical body for a specified period that we don't know? It's an interesting question. The reason I've come back today, I've had a little break from these videos. I've been doing some retreats and things like that, and been doing a lot of amazing work, and very blessed and happy to be doing this work. And I wanted to come back and do a little video today, and feeling inspired. Had a great morning of meditation and breathwork and yoga and some walking, and I wanted to talk about something that's been popping up on social media this past while, and it's someone that we all know very well. Most people would know very well because he's a very famous guy, and it's Jim Carrey. So Hollywood actor, very funny comedian, and now he's had, I'd say most people would notice that there's been a big change in him. So there's lots of talk about it, and obviously because he's linked to Hollywood and he's well known, the first things that you see on news and mainstream media and these types of things is that he's crazy, he's lost his mind. All of this stuff is what's going on, and that's obviously the first assumption when you're in a dysfunctional place like that, which is an illusory, like a world that's not real, and it's a world that's built on materialism and playing roles and how you look and how you are, and it's not ultimately real. It's when someone goes against the grain very much, the first thing they say is, oh, they're crazy, they've lost their mind. And that's an interesting term, lost their mind, and that's actually what I would say that has happened with Jim Carrey. And I'm going to explain this as best I can to my understanding, and how I would say that losing your mind is something that is very beneficial to us. And I've had a couple of amazing questions this week on Messenger where people have asked questions about that and similar things, and it's around, so when we say lose our mind, it's usually termed as a negative thing, something that someone has lost touch with reality, with the norm. And in that case, in normal society, that may be a negative connotation. But when we look at ultimate reality and look at really what is going on, and look at what normal is dysfunctional nowadays. Normal is war, normal is suffering and pain and depression and starvation, and this is the normal of the world, and working your whole life for someone else to earn enough money so that you can have a few years at the end of your life to retire and relax. And for most people it doesn't happen, and that's what's termed normal these days. And for me, I don't feel that is normal at all. That is dysfunctional. It is not healthy, it's not natural, but that's what the way the world has become over the last, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred years, or I can't say. We can only say what we read and hear, and but all we know is here and now. Normal, what we class as normal, is not normal. So, getting back to Jim Carrey, so lots of people saying that he's crazy, he's lost his mind. So he's talked about lots of things in these videos, and it's amazing. I shared the video. I love it. I love how he is not afraid to come out and share this, and it's amazing that it's someone in his position that is doing this. So the things that he is saying, if you're not been in this world, or if you've not done a lot of self-inquiry or reading or sort of looking into like enlightenment and ascension and these types of things, a lot of the things he was saying will be very confusing to you. And I know if it was a few years ago to me, I would have completely have said he's lost his mind. What's going on? I have no idea. So the first thing that he said that I've seen a lot of like reactions around is that he said a couple of times, "I don't exist and you don't exist," to the interviewer. So what he's saying there really is that the mind, the body, all of the things that we take to be ourselves in physical reality are momentary and passing. Hi, good morning everyone. Morning Becca, how you doing? So what he's saying is that anything that passes, or anything that changes, anything that lives and dies, ultimately is not real because it will pass. It's not ultimate reality because it will come and it will go. It's not a constant, it's not a steady. And so when people are aiming for enlightenment or to awaken, it's to awaken to the reality of the momentary. So your body is never the same from one moment to the next. So we're born with a body. When we come into this world, we're born with a certain body. It's a small body, and it is completely unrecognizable to the body that you have now. So that body is not the same. So that body has changed. So if that is the case, something that changes, something that moves, something that's born, something that dies, it can't be you, because you are eternal. You are existing before that starts. You exist after the body leaves, and you exist as the observer of what passes through. And as you go through life, as this form of progression, as this evolution, as this growth of being born, and then you die, there is something that exists, and that is awareness. There's something that is aware when you are a baby in that body that is not the body that you have now. And that same awareness is here in this body now. Whatever many years later, you've got a different body, you've got a different set of circumstances. The awareness is still there. And what enlightenment is or awakening to the fact that awareness is what you actually are. The awareness of self, as Muji, one of my favorite teachers that we go see a lot here, it's the self, the true self, the real self, the ultimate, the absolute, the unborn. It's if we look at it in more physical terms, let's say, so in a normal day, in a normal waking state, where our mind is working and we're doing physical things, and we're thinking about things, we have thoughts, we have words, or actions, and that dictates what sort of our day looks like. So we'll have thoughts, and I'll talk more about thoughts and mind and how they're also illusory and not real as well. But in the physical sense, if we look at we have this physical, we're thinking, we're doing actions, we're walking, we're talking, we're doing our work, we're doing whatever we need to do. Becca, sorry, it's very hard to see. Becca says, great talk and your energy is grounding. I'm happy to reconnect. Oh, well, I'm very happy you're joining as well. So our normal day-to-day life, we're our waking state, it feels like we are in control. Our mind is in control. We think of something, we go do it. I think I'm going to move my hand like this, okay, I do it. So that's in our waking state. When we go to sleep at night, so we have awareness of that. If we look at it now, if I am doing this, I can make a thought, I'm going to make this hand move. So where did that thought start? Where is the beginning of that thought? Where is the end of that thought? Am I making that decision? Who makes the decision to make the decision? There's so many levels of this that go into, and then it will absolutely blow our mind, because someone said to me, like, they can't get their mind around this concept, and that's very true, because the mind is not designed to get its awareness or get this concept, because it can't be conceptualized, it can't even be talked about. I said in the video that I'm going to talk about nothing, but the thing is about this awareness, this thing of, see, even calling it a thing is the wrong way. This awareness is a good word for it. Every description that we put on this awareness is a description, and makes it a thing, it makes it a something, and it's not something. It's because something implies that there is an other. This is something that there is no opposite, there is no other. It's the all it is. And everything that we do, and like Muji or any like enlightened teachers like that, all they can ever do is actually point. They say, I can't talk about it, I can't describe it, because as soon as you put a description, a name, a location, anything you put on that, it makes it something, it's a thing. But this awareness is previous to that. It's before all of that. It's something that is before and after and in between, and paradoxically it is the things that we say that it isn't, because there's nothing that exists outside of it. It's everything. So when we go to sleep at night, those actions, I'm thinking I'm taking a walk, I'm moving my hand here, I'm going to work, I'm driving a car, when we go to sleep, we drop the physical actions that we're going to do. We lay down to rest and we go into an unconscious state. But there are certain functions of our body when we are sleeping that still need to function for us to stay alive. So our heartbeat, the functioning of our brain, our digestive system, the blood flow, the nervous system, all of these things function perfectly whether you are awake or not awake. So when you're going to sleep, you don't think, oh, I better remember to beat my heart or I won't be waking up tomorrow. It's not something that we have to consciously think about, or it's not something that we can take an action on. It's not something that we can do. The breath is the one that's kind of a dual one of this, where the breath will happen on its own when you're sleeping, and the breath happens on its own when we're awake, but we actually have control of the breath. So that's another conversation. But so when we're asleep, all of those essential life processes happen on their own. So you're not controlling that, and your mind is not telling these things to happen. So the mind is functioning in daily thought. We're in dream state, which is another conversation as well, but I want to stick with the mind. You're not making decisions to beat your heart. You're not thinking, oh, I should digest that food before I get up in the morning. You're actually unconscious. You're not aware. You're aware in some dream state, but to the biggest extent you're unaware of what is happening. So what is the force, or what is the power, what is actually allowing your heart to keep beating? What is breathing? What is digesting your food? What is pumping the blood to your brain? And what's keeping your nervous system going? So some would say life. We're alive, a life system, it goes on, but how does that occur? How does that happen? It's not occurring by your will or your intention. There's something beyond. There's something that when we're asleep, it still is aware. It's still, this life force is still moving, it's still creating, it's breathing you. You're not breathing, it's breathing you. That's how we can look at this force, this unnameable, this all it is, awareness. That's how we can look at that in a normal life, in our waking state. We can make decisions, and we do this and we do that. We feel like we have certain amount of control. When we're asleep, those functions that keep us alive happen automatically without any of our intention or will. So that concept of awareness is what awakening is what Jim Carrey, I would say, is awakened to that. And when he says that he doesn't exist, what he means is that the body that comes and goes doesn't exist, because the body is not the actual function that keeps the body alive, or this force or this energy that the body is sustained by this force, and he's awakening to that. And he's saying the other person doesn't exist. It's the same. It's all of creation. All beings are the same, and all sentient beings are the same. And actually nature is alive with the same force in just a different way. So like plants have consciousness, animals have consciousness. They're all the same thing, but we're all manifesting in different ways. And we're manifesting as humans, which are sentient beings, which can make decisions, which we can direct in certain ways, we can attract things, we can repel things, we can create. But ultimately the life force that sustains us is this, all it is this background, this unborn, this undying, this all that is. Again, every word that we use is a pointing towards it. Nothing, there's no word, there's no way of describing it, there's no way of talking about it. All it can do is point you towards something that may give us a certain awareness of it. And this is why I really admire teachers like Mooji. I'm going to go back to him because he's, for me, the best on this, is how he can like just come up with so many different ways of pointing towards the same thing, to allow you to understand it. But ultimately we have to come into our heart and understand it ourselves. And it's not an understanding of the mind where it's like a concept that we need to realize or learn. It's not something. It's something that we have to awaken to, that's already there. It's something that it's a realization. It's like something it's like a present that's inside of our being, that's always there. We just don't know it. The human experience is to forget that we are already awake. We are that all that is. We are this undying force. But we use this human experience to experience the forgetting of that, and in some cases, in some lifetimes, to actually awaken to that. And I feel like Jim Carrey is one of the people who is awakened to that now. He or in the process of awakening. That's another thing, is that there's no end to this. It's like infinity doesn't. That's another, like, a concept to try and get your mind around, is impossible. Infinity is impossible to really get your mind around, because there's no getting around infinity. Infinity is infinite. The definition of it is unending. It doesn't start, it doesn't end. It's really difficult to get that around. But so I feel like the process of awakening to that infinity is unlimited as well. But within our limited human construct, or this human body, this human experience, what is happening with Jim Carrey is one of the biggest steps that we can take within the human realm, and it's awakening to that that awareness. It's a realization. So it's very inspiring. It's it's amazing to me to watch, like, someone like Jim Carrey, who we watched as kids, always being a funny guy, always being like loads of movies that people would know, and but it's amazing to see this transformation in him. This, like, just I don't want to say 360 degrees, because what it is really, it's a coming home. It's an awareness of what you already are, and every single person, every being, everything, everything in existence is this same energy. And we have this individual experience as a human, so that we can experience individuality, so we can create and experience dark and light, and up and down and left and right, and experience with our senses. But ultimately we are the same thing. We are one. The statement "we are one" is that's what it is. We are one thing. So when he says to this the interviewer, "We don't exist, I don't exist, just things are happening," it's that awareness that these momentary things, like the body, like the words, like the experiences, like the emotions, all of those things come and go. So they're guidance, and they're all useful. They're all part of our journey. But ultimately, we are that God, that universal mind, that consciousness, all these concepts that point towards what it is. So that's, for me, what awakening is, what enlightenment is. There's so many levels of this that it's impossible. I want to make it as simple as possible in the most kind of down to earth language that I can do. I hope I've done that. But the next thing I want to do now is, because someone else asked me like a really amazing question this week as well, and I want to address that, and it's linked to this. So it's around when we talk about enlightenment, a lot of the things is that you lose desires, you lose individuality, because you feel you're all one. Then you lose your individual place in the world. And if someone tells you don't exist, then you take that from a mental perspective, then it's like, what's the point of even being here? Why, if I don't exist, if this body's not real, my story's not real, none of it is real, why am I here? What's the point of it all? And I want to address this now, because it's a very good question, and it's a very good point, and I'm sure it's going to be for every human being at some stage in some lifetime. It's going to be like, why, if I am this all that is, this pure bliss, this beyond bliss, this all that is, why would I come to this world, to this limited body, to this place of pain and suffering and contrast and all this. Why would I ever do that if that's what I was? And I want to talk about that now and say that we want, the infinity as the all that is has awareness, but if you are all that is, there's no separate, there is no other, there's no duality, there's nothing to reflect. Awareness itself can't be aware of itself without another, without something to compare. If you think about anything that we can talk about, any word we can put on a thing, it'll be location, or it'll be a name, or it'll be in comparison to something or someone else. It's duality, it's like reflection, it's this or that, here or there, all of those things. So in the ultimate reality, none of those exist. There is no here, there is no there, there's no time, there's no other. So all it is needs to experience and wants and has the desire to experience itself. And you can't experience self without reflection, without another. So that's the reason for all of creation. Everything in creation is so that all that is, the God, if you want to call it, the universal mind, all of that, so it can experience itself. And that is the only way we can experience something, is with reflection, with others. So everything in existence is that way in which all that is experience itself. So we come from that same place. There's a spark of God, the light of the universe is within each and every one of us. But we decide and choose to come into a physical body, into a physical experience, where firstly we forget that we are that. We forget that we are beyond all of this, and we come deliberately with the intent to forget that, so that we can remember it. And that's the point of enlightenment. Is one of the first steps of enlightenment. But with that in mind, we're here, we're living a lifetime. It feels like time is a very real thing. We're born, we die. It could be whatever many years in between, and there's all this suffering. And why would I do that? Why would I do that if I can just rest in a place of pure bliss? The other thing around this is that all that is can't experience, if pure bliss, pure oneness, pure all that is can't experience itself, its magnificence, its beauty, its splendor, unless there is the opposite of that to experience. So you can't know dark unless you know light. You can't know black unless you know white. You can't know this unless you know that. If there is no frame of reference, if there's no scale, if there's no hot, no cold, you can't know that you're hot. If cold doesn't exist, you can't know hot. So Alan Watts talks a lot about these, and I loved him. I highly recommend checking out Alan Watts if you do. I've read lots of his books, listened to loads of his seminars. He's amazing at this, and he talks about. So it's like if you have like a magnet, and you have a north pole and a south pole. So if you cut the magnet in half, you've still got a north pole and a south pole. And you can keep cutting, and you can go down to but you're always going to have a north pole and a south pole. It doesn't matter how many times you cut it down. You can't. There in the world of duality, in the world that we are in, there can't be existence without other. You can't be north unless south exists. There can't be hot unless cold exists. So back to the human experience. That is why we would come from pure bliss, oneness, God, self, universal mind, to a limited version of that, which is what the limited awareness of that, and that's what the human experience is. So we come as this consciousness, as the spark of God, and we have that within us, and we come here to forget that experience and to experience all of life, all that creation can provide for us, everything that is available, so we can experience pain and darkness and negativity and suffering, and we can experience joy and love and peace and happiness and awareness. All of those things we need for a gauge, to be aware of those things. We need something to compare to. We need something that is not that. Conversations with God puts this really well, and I can't remember the quote exactly now, but it's in the absence of what is not, what is not. I think I've got that right. I can understand it conceptually, but so what it means is just what I've been saying. You can't experience and know the fullness of joy and love and peace unless you know in some level depression and anxiety and all of these other things. So that's why the human experience is here, and that's why it offers us the opportunity of all of it. And we've got free choice to create whatever we want. And again, we would, and this is a very big subject and it's a very difficult one for people to get their head around. And when we talk about creating a reality, then people will say, then why would people consciously or by choice create the suffering like that we see in the world, like the starvation, the wars, all of those things? Now that is a very big subject, and it's more than I've talked about it in other videos, but I don't want to go into that now because it'll do double the side of the video. But ultimately we just have to know that all is perfection on the highest level, and all the suffering and pain and things that we see negative in the world here are on the highest level. There is purpose to them, and there is choice, and there is creation. And it's not that anyone consciously chooses to suffer, anyone consciously chooses to have like really negative things happen to them in their life. But on a higher level, there is a much grander scheme of things that is a plan that we could never in this human experience, in this level of awareness, we could never understand fully. But all I know, and it's my knowing, and you can find out if it's true for you, is that each one of us create our reality, and we can choose to create suffering and we can choose to create joy. And again, I'm not saying that the people that are choosing suffering are doing so deliberately and it's because they just want to suffer. That's not the case. There are higher levels of agreements and things that are going on that allow the experience of the collective as a whole to awaken, to choose who and what they are in relationship to what they see in the world. So the suffering and all of the things that are going on in the world are all a collective consciousness. They're all a part of what we are and who we are. And even the things that we see, especially the things that we see as the darkest and negative things, they are part of each one of us. So we tend to separate and say that this is good and I am good, but over here is bad. But those are part of you. All of those things are within us, and the way we make the change within those is with changing within us. And then the more that the mass collective, the collective consciousness of humanity changes to move away from suffering, to move away from judging ourselves, to move away from judging others, the less and less the collective consciousness will create these environments of where they are. So that's a quick explanation on that. So I don't want to go too much further because I could talk all day on that. And I know it's, as I say, I know it's not a popular concept, and it's not if you think about it on the level of mind, absolutely, I understand that, but this is not on the level of the mind, and enlightenment is not on the level of the mind. Enlightenment is moving beyond the mind. So the human experience is to experience it all. So we have free choice to come here and experience everything that we want. We can choose today to go jump out of a plane with a parachute or without, and we can do that if we want. We can choose to give up our job and go move to a new country and change our name and do anything. We have complete free choice. There are many societal and cultural things that have evolved over time that may seem to keep us controlled within those choices, and to some extent that is true, but ultimately we still have full free choice. We choose how we respond and react to every situation, and that's the human experience, and that's how we can make it. And we can make it a life of suffering, or we can make it a life of joy, or we can make it a life of combination of both. And a lot of people with their awakening is that's what they do. Their early life may start with a lot of suffering, a lot of darkness, a lot of pain, and then using this pain as a catalyst, then at some point they may start to take their power back, become more empowered, and start to awaken to the reality that they are this all that is. And whether you do or not, again, it doesn't mean a whole lot, because it's not a competition, or it's not something that you have to get done. It's not a destination. It's just more and more experience, and whether you experience in this lifetime or not, again, it's not really relevant, because you are infinite. You have ultimate control. You're never going to end. You're never going to die. What we see as death is a complete illusion. It's just another beginning. We just change form. We just move into another form of consciousness, and we can choose to come back as something else, or do something else, or experience something else on another dimension, or we could come back to Earth if we wanted as well. And I know I'm getting very esoteric and very out there today, but that's okay. This is what's flowing. So if it's resonating with you, then it's listen with your heart. Don't listen with your head. If the mind and the thoughts and the conditioning and all the things that have ruled this world now, and that have led to these control systems, are the things that are holding us back, and it's the things that is holding you back from your true power. It's really the realization that you have ultimate control. You have ultimate creative abilities. You can create your reality. You do create your reality, either consciously or unconsciously. And when we become aware of that, then life becomes magical. And I can say that from my personal experience, that life has become magical when I've become aware of my creative abilities. And these control systems only exist and only have control because of our ignorance of our own creative power. And if everyone knew their own creative power, these control systems would melt in an instant. And it's only because we've been kept unaware by certain things and certain methods. We've been kept unaware, and certainly religions and governments and any other form of control, of mass control, have all taken the power away from the individual. As I say, ultimately we are one, but in this human experience, we're coming here to experience an individual experience. And when we realize that individual experience, what we want to experience is within the individual experience, and experiencing that we are one. That is the ultimate in the human experience. That is enlightenment. That is awakening, and realizing that there is no other. Ultimately, that there is no other. There is only one thing. So I've gone over quite a lot there. I feel like I don't know, I tried to simplify this thing around. I don't know if I've done that or not, but I've flowed with what has come to me. I hope that has answered some questions. It may, very likely, it has raised more questions, and that's okay, because, as I say, it's never ending. This is a journey, and the point of life is the journey. It's not a destination. There is no destination. There is only more experience and more experience. And if this resonates with you, and you feel like what I'm saying in some way, don't take my word for it. Don't think that this is a concept that you get your mind around, or something you can learn. This is not something to be learned. This is something to be experienced, and you can only experience yourself, and really experience the self, the ultimate self. And you do that with meditation. You do it with breath work. You do it with things that you love, doing things that take you out of your thinking mind, the illusory mind. Painting. I know Jim Carrey, that's one of the things that he does now, and he's completely engrossed in his painting work, and he does huge, amazing works, and that's part of the reason he is where he is at now, because this expression of his soul is painting, and that takes him beyond the thinking mind, the physical world. And for you, that may be dancing, it may be singing, it may be creating a building, it may be anything like that that's creative, that moves you out of left brain and into your right brain, which is, the left brain is the more masculine, the logical, the things that are sequential, and the right brain is creative, it's more feminine, it's receptive, it's that moving more towards there. That's what's happening on the planet now, as well as this move from a masculine dominated logical time-based reality to a more feminine, receptive, open, and that is not a male and female split, because the divine masculine, divine feminine exist within both male and female, but their energies are dominant within one or the other, and that's what yoga is about, is coming into harmony and union, balancing the both. And there is an imbalance as a whole of masculine to feminine energy, so that's within everyone. So it's not a male female thing, it's a concept that's beyond physical sex. So that's something to ponder, something to meditate on, something to maybe dismiss. If you think all I've said is rubbish, that's fine too. There's infinite ways to climb a mountain. There's no one way. I'm just sharing you what works for me and what I feel as a knowing in my heart. This is not a concept. This is a knowing that I have come to, and I've come to it through direct experience through breathwork. I have experienced that oneness. I have experienced that at times, and it's an incredible gift to give to yourself. And everyone has the ability of this. And for you, it may be creating something that will get you there. Maybe doing yoga. Maybe anything. Like we have a good friend here, John Tomlinson, and he was investigating inflation in the 1970s, which is a very left brain, a very masculine, a very financial type of thing. And in his investigations of that, he had an awakening experience. So it doesn't have to be these spiritual things or these out there things. It could be anything that will take there. But you're searching your awareness of something greater inside you, that something beyond living and dying, something beyond getting a job and earning money and retiring and suffering and all that. Knowing that there is a purpose beyond that, and knowing that you are that purpose, and that the journey of life doesn't have to be suffering. And even when it is, we don't have to suffer suffering. We can move beyond it. We can use it as a tool. We can use it for awakening. We can use it for taking us there. So I hope I have clarified in some way, or shared some things that resonate you, that ring true. But ultimately what you need to do is experience it for yourself, and take anything that I've said that feels right, or feels like it's interesting, and apply it in your life, and look at ways in which you can do this. Meditation obviously is a very big one, but it doesn't have to be that way. But see how you can do it. I'm happy to have discussions with anyone if they'd like to about this, and clarify even more. As I say, there's no end to the clarification of this, and any words that we say cannot get even close to the description. We can only point towards what ultimate reality and ultimate truth is. So I would highly encourage you to look into this. If you haven't seen Jim Carrey's video, watch it and just see what it makes you feel, and what do you think around that. Another guy that done an amazing video, who is like an amazing teacher, is Prince EA. So he's very poetic. He's a spoken word artist. Look at his video on this, which is like really, really amazing. And just self-inquire. Just look for your own truth, and it's within you, and it's all within you. It's within each one of us. It's not something outside of us. It's within each and every one of us, and you can search for it, and you can find it. So I will leave it there. These flies and wasps are starting to annoy me. That's definitely the person talking there. But I want to leave that with you, and I'd be happy to talk with anyone if they're interested in chatting about these things. I love to have conversations about this, and again, I am just sharing what's true for me, and you will find out what is true for you. So I will go, and I am going to have some breakfast and catch up with some more things. After this few weeks of retreats, I've been very busy, so a lot of things I still have to reply to a lot of people, so there's a lot of people waiting. I will get back to you all today. So have an amazing day, everyone. I love you from my heart, and I will hope to see you all very soon. Namaste and goodbye.